Hey there everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another video. In this one we're going to be looking at how we can make the most out of Komiser with a very simple hands-on tutorial. We're going to take a very simple app, we're going to deploy it using Terraform, and we're going to see how this small example is applicable to bigger organizations with bigger environments. Let's jump in. Right, so before we jump in, let's think about the problem. It's one thing to work on your own, developing a personal project, deploying it to the cloud. It's going to be very hard for you to lose track of all of the resources that make up your small application, right? It's very different though when you're working as part of a group in a bigger organization. Sometimes you're going to be working and taking part of various applications. Sometimes you're even going to have resources in multiple cloud providers. And up until now, we don't have necessarily a great way of tracking all of that. Of course, we all know it's best practices to tag all of the resources when they're created, but that's only really half of the solution, right? Because sure, the resources are tagged, but if you don't know they're there, if you can't find them, if they're not easy to locate, then what good is it that they're tagged? I say that the tags are half of the solution because actually Komiser uses tags as one of the ways of organizing the resources that we have in the cloud. Up until now, we would have to depend on the console, we would have to depend on going through regions and even writing custom scripts to make sure that all resources are accounted for. But this is where Komiser comes in. Komiser is the tool that you can just connect your cloud providers. Those resources that are inside of the cloud, regardless of the region, are going to be found, and those tags that we reference are going to be the instrument that's going to help us create logical groupings that make sense for each team and for each organization. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. I have an instance of Komiser already running. If you want to know how to deploy an instance of Komiser using Terraform, I'll leave a link to the hands-on tutorial that I shared last week, which explains how to do exactly that. But today we're going to do something different. Today we're going to deploy a very simple NEXT.js app, and we're just going to make sure that it's tagged correctly, so then we can afterwards organize all of the cloud resources that that application runs on to make sure that everything is accounted for, and we can see it clearly in the Komiser resource inventory. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, so in terms of the app that we're going to deploy, it's a very simple demo Next.js app. I'll add a link to the gist with the code that I'm actually using below, but as I said, it's a very simple Next.js app. I've just changed the name of the blog section, and we'll see it a little bit later. But today, what's important is not so much the app itself, but the cloud resources that the app runs on. For this hands-on tutorial, we're going to be working in AWS, and there's a bunch of different deployment methods, and there's a bunch of different deployment destinations that we could choose. We could choose to deploy our containerized app to a Kubernetes cluster. We could choose to use ECS. Today, just to keep it simple, I'm going to deploy the containerized app to an EC2 instance. So that's the first resource that I'm going to provision, an EC2 instance, and the app is also going to depend on a set of different resources such as an Elastic Load Balancer, an IAM instance profile that will be attached to the EC2 instance. I'm also going to create a Route 53 domain name, and of course, since we're using Terraform, we'll also need an S3 bucket to store the state of our Terraform state file. But as you can see already, with a very simple app, we already have a bunch of different resources that the app relies on. So these resources, we're going to make sure that they're consistently tagged so that we can later aggregate them in Komiser. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so right here we can see the resources that our simple app is going to rely on. I'm not going to go through every single resource because this is going to be a very similar way of deploying resources to what we saw in the previous video, the one that I linked before, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. But the key thing to see here is that for each resource, we are passing in the consistent tags. So as you can see here, we're looking at the EC2 Terraform file. For the AWS instance, we're adding this tag section. For the security group that we're provisioning, we are also adding the tags. We are adding tags for all of the different resources that we're provisioning. And this is the key but crucial part of the work that you've probably already been doing before. You've already, more than likely, if you're using some sort of infrastructure as code, you're more than likely tagging your resources. But now you're going to be able to use those tags in an intelligent way in Komiser. So let's go ahead and apply this. Cool, so this is applied now. We see the outputs, we see the IP address of the EC2 instance, and we can also see the domain of our blog. Let's see if this is reachable. And there we have it. We can see that our simple app is running. So let's see what we can find in the Komiser dashboard. So as I said before, I've already deployed a Komiser instance to AWS, so let's find it here. Okay, so here's the instance. Let's head over to the inventory page. Okay, so here in the inventory page, I can see all of the resources that I have inside of the AWS account. I think I even have other resources from different cloud providers here, but what I'm interested in is only the resources that are associated to the Jake blog app. So those are the tags that I'm going to use to filter. Okay, so I'm going to go over to specific tag. The key is app with a capital A is, and then it's Jake-blog. Nice, I can see all of the resources that I've provisioned, and I can see them here with the tag that I've given them. And since I provisioned it just a bit earlier on today, we can already see that the EC2 instance is starting to incur cost. So this is definitely something that I'm going to want to be aware of. So I'm going to save this as a custom view. So I'm going to go over to save views, and I'm going to call this Jake's blog. Okay, so great. So now we have this custom view, which is going to serve as quick access anytime we want to go in and check on the infrastructure that our application depends on. But more than that, we're also going to be able to apply alerts to make sure that the cost associated to the resources don't surprise us, or that the number of the actual resources doesn't increase in a way that we weren't expecting. So let's go ahead and do that. From inside the custom view, I'm going to head over to alerts. And since I've already created the Slack integration, I'm able to now apply the alerts directly. There's two types of alerts I can choose from. I'm going to go for the first cost alert, and I want to give it a name, which is the $10 alert. And I want to know if my resources associated to the app goes over $10. I want to know. I'm going to set that up. But more than likely what you're going to want to do is set more than one in case you get alert the first time and you're not aware. So let's go ahead and create the $15 alert. And of course, this is up to you. You can add the alerts to your aggregated custom view, and that way make sure that you're not missing any activity that or get surprised by any surprise that you weren't expecting. Let's go ahead and just add one more alert, because this has to do with the number of resources that are inside the custom view. At the moment, I don't really think that my blog is going to need more compute instances, for example. But imagine if I deployed my blog to an auto-scaling group and I didn't really expect the blog to get traffic that would require more than 3 instances. So if there's some sort of scale out, so say for example, if there's 9 resources in the custom view, then that's what I want to know, because imagine that it scales out in some way that wasn't expected. Of course, in this case, no, because there was no auto scaling group, but this is why you would add it. So you could just call it the scale out alert. And yeah, so 9 resources. So now I'm going to be alerted if there are more than 9 resources inside of the custom view. So with this very simple example of using Komiser to track the resources associated to a very simple app, I hope you can see the power in the fact that all of the work that you've probably already been doing of tagging and applying a consistent tagging convention to all of your resources in all of your cloud providers is finally going to be worth your efforts, because now with the resource inventory, you're going to be able to leverage those tags to be able to create your logical groupings in the form of custom views, which is hugely beneficial, since now you don't have to go around looking, you don't have to go around guessing to see if there's any resources that you've missed. If you want to clean up a region or a section in your cloud infrastructure, you're not going to have to worry about did you leave something behind. Everything is going to be all in one place. By applying alerts, you're going to be sure that you're not going to be overpaying, and all in all, you're finally going to get a little bit closer to the cloud transparency that as cloud engineers really just makes our jobs so much easier. So I'm going to leave it here. I hope you got value from this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.